You're lying next to someone who loves you and you feel completely alone. Not the loneliness of being alone, the kind that happens when someone is right there and still out of reach. Most people who feel this never say it. So you stay. You adjust until a moment arrives and the feeling comes back. So clearly you cannot pretend anymore. Something important happens and you will not tell them. That silence is not coldness. It is something inside you that learned to stop reaching. They are loving you in the only language they know, and it does not reach you. Think about the last time you felt it clearly. Something mattered and you watched it not land. That feeling has a texture, not grief, not anger, something between the two. There's a name for what that is. Your brain was not built for someone to just be there. It was built for something more specific, the feeling of being truly understood by another person. That is different from attention. Someone can be fully present and still completely miss you. What you need is not love. It is to feel like your real self is safe to bring into the room. You stopped reaching not because you stopped wanting to, because reaching kept coming back empty, and something inside you learned to protect itself. That closing is not a choice. It happens the way a door closes in the wind until one day you notice it is shut. They feel it too. Both of you warm on the surface and careful underneath. The distance between two people who love each other and still cannot reach each other has a name. It starts before you ever met, in the way you both learned what closeness feels like when you were young. This is not caused by not loving enough. It is caused by never learning how. Most people were raised by people who did not have that skill either, so it was never taught. Understanding this changes what the loneliness means. It stops being proof you chose wrong and becomes proof of a specific gap that can be named and closed. Because love that cannot reach someone is not a failure of love. It is a failure of translation. Two people speaking different emotional languages, wondering why the other does not understand. The gap can be closed, but it requires one specific thing: the willingness to bring the real version of yourself into the relationship. Not the careful version. Not the one that has already decided what is safe to say. The one still figuring it out. The fear is not rejection. It is being fully seen and still being left. But a relationship that needs a smaller version of you to survive is not keeping you. It is keeping a performance. The people who close the gap do not do it in one conversation. They do it through small moments of being real, consistently, over time, until the space between them starts to feel safe enough to fill. This is not fast. The part of you that remembers every time you got hurt does not update quickly. It needs repeated proof before it trusts again. The same way it learned to close, it can learn to open. The gap does not always mean the relationship is wrong. Sometimes it means it is early, still building the safety that being real requires. And what you learn here does not stay in this relationship. How you learn to stay when staying feels risky. How you reach when reaching has hurt you before. That comes with you everywhere. The loneliness you feel inside a relationship is not a sign you are broken. It is a sign you know the difference between being with someone and being known by them. You are not asking for too much. You are asking for something specific that has a name and a path toward it. The person you are with may be capable of meeting you there, but you cannot know that yet, because you have not shown them the real version, which means the first move is yours. Not because it is fair, because it is the only move available. You cannot wait for them to cross first if they do not know there is a gap to cross. If what comes back when you finally show up fully is recognition, you will have found what most people spend their entire lives searching for without knowing what they're looking for. The feeling of being truly known, and it will change everything that comes after. The quiet moments, the silences, all of it feels different when the person next to you is finally next to you. And if what comes back is distance, that is not a verdict. It is information about where to go from here. The gap is not a life sentence. It is a location. You know where it is now. You know how it formed and what it would take to close it. The loneliness you have been feeling inside a relationship is not a sign something is wrong with you. It is a sign something specific is missing. And specific things that are missing can be found. The love is real. The gap is real. And the distance between them is not fixed. It is made of patterns. And patterns, however old, however deep, can be interrupted, can be replaced. The version of this relationship that exists right now is not the only version that is possible. You have been sitting with this feeling longer than you have admitted. It has been trying to tell you something the entire time. Not that you chose wrong, not that you are too much, that there is a gap. You know its name now, and knowing its name is the beginning of being able to close it. The version of you that has been quietly making yourself smaller to keep the peace, that version has been carrying this long enough. It is allowed to put it down now, not by leaving, by finally showing up fully, in the place where the gap has been. The part of you that remembers every time you got hurt is allowed to rest. Because the risk of being fully seen is not as dangerous as spending your whole life being loved for a version of yourself that is not really you. Think about that person again, the one who is right there, close enough to touch. You have been lying next to them, feeling alone for long enough. That feeling was never a sign that love was missing. It was a sign that something more specific was missing. And you know what it is now? You know where it lives. You know what it would take to close it. The question is no longer what is wrong. The question is what you're going to do now that you know. The moment you decide to stop performing and start showing up, everything shifts. Not all at once. Slowly. The silences change first. They stop feeling like distance and start feeling like two people who do not need to fill every space because the space itself feels safe. That is what you have been missing. Not more love. A different quality of presence. The kind where you do not have to edit yourself before you speak. Where the real version of you is the one that gets to stay. You chose this person, and somewhere underneath all the distance and the quiet adapting, they chose you too, not the performance. You, which means the gap between you is not a wall. It is a space that has been waiting for one of you to step into it first. And the one who steps in first changes everything that comes after. For both of you, that first step is not a grand gesture. It is one honest moment. One true thing said out loud. That is how it starts. Think about that moment again. The one that brought you here. Lying next to someone in the dark. Close enough to feel their warmth. And feeling completely alone. Your body was not lying to you in that moment. It was reading something real with complete accuracy. It was reading the gap. And now you know what the gap is. You know where it came from. You know what it is made of. You know it is not fixed. You know the version of this relationship that exists right now is not the only version that is possible. The loneliness you have been feeling is not the end of the story. It is the part just before you decide to change it. And the moment you decide, lying there in that same dark, next to that same person, everything that came before will finally make sense.